all step into the leadership roles in very different ways, in very different, ambit, from wineries to hospitality, media, and distribution. What has been the most valuable lesson that you have learned as women leading in the wine industry?
Are we on? Yeah. Hello, good morning, buongiorno. Okay, so the lesson I've learned most being a female, doing all the things, have a good lawyer, right? Yeah, write it down, right? And have people around you that you can trust that will collaborate with you. Always speak for yourself, because no one will speak for you the way you speak for you. So make sure that you are heard. And don't give up when you're not heard. If I had a dime for every time I wasn't heard, I would have a lot of dimes. So I would say that would be my little word of advice.
So Gino Giorgetti has been a Chicago icon for generations.
85 years.
How do you balance the legacy of the regulars, and the expectation of the new generation, the new clients, the younger clients?
This is an excellent question that I ask myself every day. So what I've learned is, I think it's also worth noting, I'm the first woman in my family to be out front and actually publicly owning and operating the restaurant. So there are 3 generations of us, but I'm the first female. And it's interesting because when I came into the business, one of the conversations I had with my dad was that he would publicly maintain, even though he was sick at the time, it was towards the end of his life, he would publicly maintain the facade that he still owned the restaurant, giving me an opportunity to get my feet wet and sort of adjust. Because, as you mentioned, I've planned weddings for 20 years and events all over the world. I never really ran restaurants. So when I came in, I had to learn, how do you accommodate, honor that tradition, those customers who come in expecting what they've always known, and also drive the business forward and mindfully, intentionally evolve it. And this is basically the crux of my existence, right? Is how do I take a brand that people depend on, they know, they recognize it, it's quality, right, as something they're familiar with, and then also drive it forward. How do we push boundaries? How do we bring in new dishes? And one of the main ways we did that was including a lot more women in the equation. So our chef is female from Italy, and our basically our business director who created our HR department is a woman, right? Our assistant general manager is here, and so is a woman from our HR department. So we've incorporated different age groups, different women, different backgrounds, so the conversation in management isn't just about the decisions that I make, but it's collaborative. And so we can pull on those customers we know, understand what they've always come to trust, and then also, okay, what is Bryn going to be interested in as a diner? What do I want to see as a woman at my age in a restaurant? Those kinds of questions are how we sort of trial and error what we do, and it really just comes down to mindful, intentional evolution. And we ask ourselves, is it honoring the brand and evolving the brand? So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Teamwork is always the best.
Teamwork is quintessential.
So now I have a question for Michelle and Nadia. You both took over from your fathers, in Michelle's case also from your grandfather, carrying forward a family legacy. So how was the transition, and to lead such a well-known business for both of them, and what challenges did you face, and how did you put your own style? You just talk about it a little bit before, but exploring more, about like how is possible and if it's difficult to bring your own soul to something that is already very well known.
How many of you out here work with family? Do many of you, yeah, you have my condolences, yeah. How many of you are part of a multi-generational business? Anyone? Okay. So those of you that have raised your hand know that this question is kind of a loaded one, right? Like there's so many different ways to answer. I will tell you this. I refer to myself, so I've been doing this now officially 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. I lose track. I don't even know the day of the week, to be honest. But I used to refer to myself as a reluctant restaurateur, okay? I have a career in the wedding industry that I love. I was very respected. I was traveling the world. I was doing things on my terms. It's my business. The wedding and event industry is very women center. Like there are tons of us that are women-driven businesses, entrepreneurial, all of those things. When I had to become part of my family's business, it was not elective. It was not by choice. My father had lung disease and was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and all of which were terminal. And I'm an only child. So for the business to go forward, it was me or it was nothing, okay? And what happened when I took over the business was this, and this is not something we discuss publicly all the time, but it's worth mentioning. So in 2019, I had a wedding in Umbria. I landed at 10 p.m., okay? And at 4 o'clock in the morning, our restaurant in Chicago was on fire, and the kitchen was obliterated. And we lost fourth quarter. For those of you that understand a restaurant in fourth quarter, your life happens in fourth quarter. We had a second restaurant at the time in Rosemont that was losing money. It had very poor management. And we were kind of in a crisis. We scheduled a grand reopening for March 20th of 2020. Yes. So we then lost again because of the pandemic. So we were millions of dollars in debt at that point, and an independent restaurant without volume, and I was at the helm of that. Thankfully, again, going back to my first answer, having people you trust around you, we had a public relations expert who's actually here today, who helped walk me through and taught me how to not only articulate what we were going through, but also become a standout in the industry. So I was taking over, really becoming public in the business at a time that was extremely volatile and financially just insecure for the restaurant. And so it was hard. It was really hard. And I resented the restaurant. I did. I was angry. I didn't want to do it. I missed my life. I was really, I felt like I'd lost myself when you would ask the question, how do I put my soul in? It took me years to get to a point where I loved the restaurant unconditionally, where I could look at and realize the 86 people that I am responsible for are a gift, right? Because that responsibility makes me a better human being. I can't even talk about it without getting emotional. And now I am a voluntary restaurateur, right? I'm here because I want to be, but it was hard. It was really hard. We paid off every penny of that debt. We struggled to find, who we were going to be coming out of the pandemic, and we did it. And it wasn't easy. We did it together. So I can take no credit on my own. What I will take credit for, though, is this. I sat down with my parents and said, if we are going to do this, if you're going to put me in this position, two things have to happen. One is the ingredients have to matter. They have to be at the forefront of everything we do, right? So our pasta is now made in-house. Our bread is made in-house. Everything we source is local or, when appropriate, from Italy. Our wine list was something that was very, very important to both myself and my husband, who is my partner in all things that we do. And we are 85 years old, and it was at 82 that we were recognized by Wine Spectator for the first time. That is a long time to wait for that kind of recognition, right? And because, right? And so those were the decisions I made. That was how I put my soul into it, was I was going to take this passion that I had for weddings, for creating experiences, for making things matter, for recognizing that the people were important, and I was going to pour that in, and the customers were going to feel that. So I became very comfortable being very transparent and sort of sharing what I just shared with you on a daily basis with how I make decisions. And I think the restaurant reflects that. I think we are a group of people now that operate, unafraid to try new things. Sometimes we fail, and and that's okay, right? Because we learn from it. And I think that's another thing that's really important when it comes to like, what have I put in? I'm not interested in perfection. I'm interested in the pursuit of excellence. And I think there's a big difference between the two. And women don't give themselves enough space between those two things too. So that would be my answer.
Thank you so much. It's very inspiring, and I think that sometimes failure is part of getting the excellence, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So thank you so much. But what advice would you give to the next generation of women, in both your businesses?
You know, I think women in general are having a moment, right? We're stepping into places where maybe we weren't before. And we're realizing that the way to do that is really by lifting one another, right? Together we sort of rise. And so that would be my first piece of advice, is always look to lift someone with you. Because going by yourself is great, and that's fun, but when you can go with other people, it's so much better. And there's so much more that you can, life is so much richer, becomes so much more of a tapestry when there's so many more different pieces and colors and backgrounds and stories. And I think that's so, so important. So always look to lift and move together, right? And I think that's a really valuable lesson that I've learned. And I also really, truly enjoy now celebrating the success of other people. And that is something in my life now at this age and where I am in my business, which knock wood is pretty solid for the most part. And this is still made of wood though, it's 100%. Testa dura, come diceva mio nonno. But anyway, so I think it's, we're just so much better when we can depend on one another and grow from one another. I have such an immense sense of pride when I see people succeed in our brand. One of the things that I think is so important is that both Gene, who was my grandfather, and Giorgetti, that was his partner, were immigrants. They were born in Lucca, and they came here in search of something more. And what's been so interesting is the people that make up our team, I don't use the word staff, I like the word team. The people that comprise our team we're literally like the United Nations. Probably rings a bell for you. And because we come from Italy, we come from Mexico, we come from Greece, we come from Iraq, we come from the States, we come from everywhere in pursuit of a dream. And when their child is going through medical school, or they've bought a home, or they've accomplished a dream professionally, they get a promotion. Our general manager was someone who began as our valet parking cars. That to me is the ultimate satisfaction. It fills my cup and my soul. And so look for those moments while you're lifting people. See how you can help them succeed, because you will succeed so much more richly in your own life. I would caution, right, that you also be mindful of who you share your energy with, right? Because not everybody is out to be the holding hands and lifting. Some people are like stepping on you as you're, right? And that's just a part of life. So I think it's important to have both sides of that, right? So the plus is lift and all of the things. The other side is be mindful of with whom you share your energy, because that can impact you on a cellular level, right? So that's what I'm going with today. I'm going with that.
Thank you so much, and yes, definitely rings a bell for me. Like I think even in difficult moments when like the geopolitical one we're living in, I think the important things of the UN, whatever limits they have, whatever paralysis they have, is that people, all the leaders from all over the world, the most different one, can be in one place at the same time, maybe behind the scenes, behind the corridors, and trying to make things happen. And sometimes it works, but this is another story.
I just want one last thing. So many of you in this room speak more than one language, right? You work in an industry that's connected by language. The coolest thing about that is when you can connect to someone in a language that maybe isn't the one you were born speaking, the world becomes smaller. When you can have a connection one-on-one with somebody, they're not as different, right? Those things that maybe divide on that very big macro level, when you get down to a micro, become so connective and so different. And I think that's so important to keep in mind. It's why I love speaking Italian. It's why I love representing all of the things that I come from, because to me, it makes everybody more together. I think that's a beautiful thing, so.